Hello and welcome to Faith on Film, a program designed to keep you aware and informed in everything that's happening in the world of faith and family entertainment. Today I've got a guest that actually has been in several films with this one company, Collective Development. And a few weeks ago I had, actually probably about 2-3 months ago, I had Melissa Anschutz, maybe you'll remember her, and she was talking about this one specific movie that literally launched. It released, I think, a couple of months ago. And so today I have one of the other stars from that movie. Now, what's interesting is this gentleman, I've never met in person before, but I'm pretty aware of him. And one thing that I did read up on him was that he was actually headed into law enforcement. So it'll be interesting to find out how he moved from law enforcement to acting and producing and writing. In fact, let me share a little bit about him with you. Shane Hagedorn is an award-winning producer, writer, and actor. As a writer-director, he has produced 2 features. In 2008, Shane premiered his first, The Model Father, a film he wrote, directed, produced, and edited. Then in 2009, Shane premiered a documentary called Craftsman Style. Both films have played to several sold-out screenings. Now, Ashes of Eden was Shane's breakout film. He was again writer, director, producer, and editor. Ashes of Eden was produced in association with Collective Development Incorporated and Ahptic, and I hope I said that right, Ahptic Films and Digital. Shane resides in Michigan, which I'm assuming is pretty cold right about now, with his wife on a small farm where he operates his production company, New House Entertainment. Shane, welcome to Faith on Film.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. I've been wanting to have you actually for a while, but you know, it just things keep getting busier and busier over here. And finally, I said, you know what, I got to have him on, especially since I did have Melissa on. So here you are. Now we want to find out about that film, but I'm very interested to find out what your journey really is and how. Tell us a little bit about this whole law enforcement. Were you going to be a cop, or what was happening there, and why did you switch over to film?
Yeah, it was, I was probably about 19, I think, and it was my first real job was plainclothes security at a department store where you kind of watch cameras, bus shoplifters and stuff like that. And had about a year plus into that, moved up to lead detective, ended up becoming manager, and had about 4 or 5 years in retail loss prevention. And I thought just naturally, you know, I worked so closely with law enforcement that I thought I'd gravitate towards that. I was kind of a protector, you know. I was, and so anyway, while taking some criminal justice classes, I had an elective, and I know some of my friends took like these weird electives like ping pong and different things like that. And I saw this intro to acting, and acting was something I always wanted to do as well. If you look at all the little pictures that I drew when I was a kid, it was like a cop and acting, you know, and watching all the movies and just mesmerized. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this, and I took this intro to acting class, and now I had you know, people coming up to me, and even a mentor of mine who taught that class said, you know, you're gonna become a cop. I don't see that. You know, you're an actor. And it took a lot of reflection, and asked my girlfriend then, my wife now, you know, that was something that I always wanted to do. And when I commit to something, I embrace it, and I go full hearted. So I changed my majored in theater and started getting lead roles in a lot of the plays. And then I got to a point where, you know, they just don't have roles for you in theater. And I was in a small town here in Michigan. I didn't know anything about movies. And one time, one of the students that I was going to school with, she came back and she had done a short film. I was like, you're in a movie? What is this? And I was so curious about it. And then I learned that there's filmmakers in my town, and I started networking with them, and I go, I'm going to make a movie. And I wrote my first feature. It was a 60s period film. I had cars, locations, everything. I took one film class, and that was just to borrow the lights and the boom and stuff like that. I bought a camera, and we just started my first feature film, you know. my 20s, so that was over about 20 years ago.
Wow. So
Yeah.
do you think that maybe you kind of had an inkling or a desire to get in filmmaking like from when you were a kid, or was it something that literally happened after you had thought about going into law enforcement?
I'm wired for it. I was created for this, but I had to discover
Yes.
it. And so that intro to acting class was the spark. I was always so curious and wanting to know. I just didn't know I could do it here. And I
Yes.
didn't want to move to LA. I didn't want to move to New York. A lot of my friends are out there and they're doing great. I wanted to stay here. And as I learned, I have more resources here. And I ended up, years later, meeting with DJ Perry in Collective Development, and we started making start getting really serious.
And by the way, the reason I asked that is because it just seems like a lot of folks that I interview, especially involved in the faith industry, because this is what this show's all about, seems to have had that inkling, that desire, or like you said, you were wired for it from way early on. And even if you didn't get into it until much later, but it seems like it was actually a calling that was placed in your life from very early on. So. I can see that happening. I tell you what, we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, let's talk about some of the films that you've made. I know that you've made what I'm familiar with mostly is now the movies that you've made in partnership with DJ Perry at Collective Development.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those, and then we'll kind of continue from there and see what else we learn about you. All right?
All right, thanks.
All right, folks, don't go away. We're going to be right back.
Encourage TV. Family-friendly and faith-friendly content absolutely free. Subscribe today and watch hundreds of hours of content on our streaming channels. Visit encouragetv.com today.
Meet Will. Will wants to make a movie based in Bible times. No, maybe a Western. Well, maybe an apocalyptic movie. A biblical era apocalyptic Western? That would be so original. But Will needs some sweet sets to bring it to life, and Will is 25,352 miles away from any of those sweet sets. Or so he thinks. Fortunately for Will, there is a solution. Introducing Capernaum Studios, your ticket to realistic locations and everything else you need to bring your period-accurate story to life. Book a tour today, like Will, who is, yet to leave.
Hello, welcome back to Faith on Film. I'm here today with Shane Hagedorn, who has, a lot of the movies, Shane, that you do are a little different than a lot of the movies that I'm more familiar with, and maybe a lot of our viewers are familiar with, that are labeled Christian films. And I know I talked to DJ about this, by the way, that you guys are doing films that are a little bit more, I don't know if I should call them realistic, or they're more they're a little edgier, if you will, than your typical Christian type film. But at the same time, they do have a somewhat of a biblical worldview, or I would say a worldview of faith. Is this pretty much what you're interested in doing?
I'm I'm just interested in this journey right here on Earth and the people I get to meet and new experiences. And, you know, as an actor, I'll act on another show. It might not have some of the, you know, foundations of some of the films that I make, but I like to explore and meet new people. I mean, yes, I'm a believer. Yes, some of my films have faith woven into them. But if we're really going to reach an audience that don't get to hear certain things, how are you going to get behind those gates? Not that I'm launching a Trojan horse or anything anywhere behind gates, but I just want to tell stories that interest me, with storytellers that I want to work with that are just as earnest in their efforts.
Right.
And I leave something behind that is inspiring, that could be challenging and truthful, you know?
Yeah.
That's what interests me, whatever those stories are, whatever genres they cross. And so, amen, God puts it all together. It might be in the 12th hour that we get A, B, or C, but it comes together, and I'm happy for it. And, you know, I'm content.
Well, you know, I mean, I believe we all have our specific, I'll call it a calling of what to do. Same as in church, for instance. You've got pastors and you've got teachers, and, you know, you've got those that are go out evangelizing. I mean, there's different jobs for all of us. And it's important that we have folks that, you know, that have faith, folks that are Christian, that are out doing work in the world as well, as opposed to just doing you know, movies for the church, let's say. And actually, that's a little tougher. I have done both. Most of my life has been in the Christian space. I was a television director for the largest Christian network in the world, Trinity Broadcasting Network. But there was one year that I did work out in Hollywood, and I found that I actually seem to have been making a bigger impact there than I did within the Christian space, because we were all Christians and we just did what we had to do. But when I went out there, I felt like, whoa, wait a minute, now I have to be an example of what I believe in to a whole different kind of people. And interestingly enough, it was a live show, a daily live show, and the first time we did the show, as we were all on headsets, and I said, look, you guys, I hope this doesn't offend any of you. I'm used to just saying a quick little prayer before I start a live show, because it helps to kind of calm me down. And, you know, so from what I hear from somebody that was out there, they all started looking around like, what in the world is this? You know, we've never experienced this. And I didn't, it was a short, I mean, I don't think it was but 10 seconds. But by the end of the week, again, this was a daily live show. By the end of the week, they were reminding me, hey, Isaac, don't forget to pray. I think it helped them as well. So I felt like, you know what, I made an impact without saying, you know, let me give you a Bible study, but rather just, this is who I am. And it just made an impact there. So, you know, I appreciate guys like you that you've got your thing you do, but at the same time, if you're asked to go join on a set that's, you know, not necessarily a faith-oriented set, that you can be there and impact even those folks, you know, doing that particular movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, God's going to do what he's going to do.
Absolutely.
Right? And so even a pebble just thrown in the pond affects the whole pond with just that little splash and the ripples. So, you know, sometimes we're called to plant the seed, to water the seed, or sometimes you're able to harvest that thing. And like I said, you know, it just as an artist, I'm really grateful to be born at this time and everything that's happening. It's a very unique time, and I'm with a band, a tribe of people that are interested and like-minded and telling some thought-provoking stories and humorous, challenging. You know, we have a couple out that explore that, and we're really excited about them.
Right. Now, what about this movie? This is the latest movie that I'm aware of that you were a part of, and of course with Melissa, and I know she's in a lot of the movies with you know, that DJ Perry does. But this particular one, what was your role on it, first of all?
Well, I acted and co-produced it, and so I play Sterling, which is the boyfriend of one of the main characters.
Right.
Yeah, Melissa was fantastic in this film.
Was.
She was also co-producer and lead in it. We all tend to be in our own projects because why not? We're actor producers, and I think that's very strong. As an actor, I'm not waiting for the opportunities, I'm creating the opportunities. And as a producer, you have skin in the game. So you want these projects from concept to delivery to be the absolute best. And so I think that we are all unified in delivering that excellence, you know.
Right.
And, you know, from all of our films, you can look them all up. The biblical trilogy, 40 Nights, Chasing the Star,
Yes.
Christ Slayer, Ashes of Eden, you know, Lost Heart, the movie that just came out that's available. And we just made one during this pandemic at the very tail end of it, carefully navigating some things, and that's called Best Years Gone, and I directed that and co-produced it and acted in it, and starring DJ Perry.
You know, I love watching you guys work together. You seem to be in a lot of films together. And I've always enjoyed you guys' films. Let's take another break, and then when we come back, we'll just find out a little bit about maybe what's in your future, what plans you might have. I'm sure you're not done making films, so maybe you've got some stuff there working out that we'd like to hear about, all right?
Yeah.
All righty, folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Got a postcard from the grandkids. They went to the Ark.
Yeah. What does it say?
Well, Annie says they had a blast and that it's really, really big.
Everything looks big to a 6-year-old.
Well, Hudson says it's even bigger than the castle.
Can't be that big. Can it? Go ahead. Think bigger.
Just one life, a perfect union. And your heart starts beating hard. I'm gonna keep on dreaming. I wanna feel that love. I wanna get that feeling. I wanna get that feeling.
Welcome back to Faith on Film. We are here today with Shane Hagedorn, who has been in quite a few movies that I absolutely love. But I'm sure he's not done making movies. So what I want to do on this one, on this segment, Shane, is just let us know what might be there for the future for you.
Future is very bright in terms
Very
of
bright.
the projects that we have on board. Wild Faith, which is one of our films that we released a couple years ago. We've been trying to build a TV series out of it called Hastings. We're very near to that goal being realized, actually producing that TV show next year in 2021. So look for that. Also, watch Wild Faith, of course.
Yes.
It's the spur of that. And then we're developing a World War II project as well, with Anthony Hornis directing that. So that'll be coming up in the fall 2021. Like I mentioned in the previous segment, Best Years Gone it's a dark comedy. It's kind of like a tragic comedy, in the vein of a Coen's Brothers. I look at it as like a Coen's Brother movie clashing with Leaving Las Vegas, the deep deep despair of Nicolas Cage's character. And that stars DJ Perry. We had an incredible time making that, very challenging. But we walked away with something really unique and that we all were proud of. So we just wrapped that like 6-7 weeks ago, something like maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah.
Now, do you go theatrical with these films? I know theatrical is a very difficult thing for filmmakers, especially independent filmmakers. I mean, unless you have the big, humongous mechanism of a big studio, it can be very difficult. Do you guys do them for theatrical, or are they straight to digital?
Yeah, excuse me. With the exception of this year, most all those films have had a theatrical run, not a wide national release, but they've been regional releases, primarily in Michigan, and we've had them in Ohio and Florida and New York and smaller theaters. It takes just as much of an engine and people to do that as it is making the film. So you got to kind of strategize where to put all your efforts. Our partner, Bridgestone Media, Multimedia, has been really great with all of our films and getting them the streaming and DVD releases, and we've been doing our theatrical. But hopefully, as things wind out with COVID-19, theaters start opening up, and our reach extends a little bit more. We want to open that up in larger theaters. So we'll see. Yeah.
Well, that definitely COVID has just made a huge impact on filmmakers. But at the same time, it's opened up a lot of the streaming opportunities, hasn't it?
Yeah, people, and going back to some of that security history, I've worked in healthcare security still for over 21 years, and so I watch it day to day, healthcare workers going in and just getting, just tough days. And so I believe what I make helps them when they come home, and they can relax and kick their feet up and watch something and just escape for a while, hopefully laugh, hopefully feel something, and go back and do it again. So I believe what we do as craftspeople, as artists, we're giving something back to the world. That's what an artist does.
Right.
We're born with that, and we give our gift away to the world.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the show that I do, of course, as you can tell, it's a very simple show. It's done, via Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever. And I've been doing it now for almost 2 years. And I always thought of it as, well, this is just a little, this little show that I originally was just going to put on YouTube. It ended up actually that it's being distributed into about 12 different networks, actual television networks and platforms, but still in this format. And interesting enough, when COVID started, it seemed like almost everybody was doing this kind of show. Everybody's just, doing their guests are at their own homes, which is kind of cool because it gives us an opportunity to go to where you're at versus you come into this fake set, So it's been, for me, I hate to say COVID's been good for me, but it sort of kind of has. And I know that there are other businesses or other entities that have that this has kind of helped them in some way. Of course, we do not want to diminish at all the fact that people have died from this, and we pray that it ends very very soon because it can be devastating. Well, listen, how can people follow you, get a hold of you, write you, or find out what you're doing?
I'm active social media, Facebook, and just go to Shane Hagedorn. You can go to cdiproductions.com, look at the library of films we have. There's a lot of work, a lot of good works in that library. They're all available on Amazon streaming, iTunes, things like that. So I encourage you to check it out. Let me know what you think. Watch Wild Faith, watch Man's Best Friend, watch, Lost Heart. And tell me what you think. I think they're really unique films. They're heartfelt films. Excellent. They're funny. And they've got everything, I believe. And we just need you to find them. Thanks. And then rate them on IMDb, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, man, thank you for taking time to join. I notice you're awfully busy with all those films you're doing, but thank you for taking the time to join me on today's show.
I'm making one right now at while we're doing this interview. So
Okay, well, you see, filmmakers never end, right? Well, listen, thank you again. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
Encourage TV. Family-friendly and faith-friendly content absolutely free. Subscribe today and watch hundreds of hours of content on our streaming channels. Visit encouragetv.com today.
Seriously, Dad, I want to go.
I told you it's not that big. Great-granddaddy couldn't even fit right.
That thing's not to scale. It's a cartoon. The real one's bigger than a football field.
For real?
Come on, you don't even have to pay for me. Kids are free.
All right. Can't be that big.
Whoa!
Wow.
Told you, Dad. You just gotta think bigger.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. I find it such a privilege to have this opportunity to come into your homes and bring you stories from people like Shane who have given their commitment to producing films that will impact our culture. If you want to reach out to him, you can always just write me and I will forward your questions or your comments to him. Simply write me at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. And of course, you can always write me a note as well. Just let me know that you're out there watching. And you can always follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. That's at Faith on Film TV. And of course, don't forget to check out Parables TV, a place where you can watch a lot of these great movies that we talk about here. Movies, documentaries, reality shows, just all kinds of great content for you and your family. All you have to do is go to parables.tv and register for free. That's parables.tv. Well, until next week, take care.